Hello, Stacie. I'm so looking forward to this conversation today with you and learning so much about Lee's Flower and Card Shop and your grandparents, how they got started, and just it'll be fun hanging out with you for an hour. So I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, Vida. I'm just as excited as you are. It's just it's a great opportunity to just talk and learn more about each other.
So as we get started, it was an incredible history. Your grandparents have a legacy. They have, we all know today as, but it started in 1945. So as we speak of legacies, tell me a little bit about your family legacy.
Vida, thank you for that question. My grandfather, William Lee, was a Pullman porter on the railroad. Back in those days, I guess the 40s, the Pullman porters played a vital role in bringing culture and disseminating culture to different communities by them traveling on the trains. They would bring newspapers from different places, Chicago, St. Louis, those kind of places, and take our newspapers to them. So that's how a lot of culture got disseminated throughout the country. And so they played a vital role in getting that culture out. And so one of my grandfather's co-workers was my grandmother's brother, and he introduced my grandfather to his sister, and they got married, and they lived she was from Montreal, Canada, and they migrated to DC from there, and so that's how we came to DC, and of course, as I said earlier, my grandfather's brother had a flower shop here right on W Street. So it's been quite a up and down with the different political times, and 1968 with the insurrection after Martin Luther King's assassination. So it's been quite a great ride. I wanted to ask you, Vida, how did Ben's Chili Bowl get started?
My in-laws started in August 22nd, 1958, and how that came to be was my father-in-law came from Trinidad to study to be a dentist, and he had an accident. He was walking onto an elevator and there was no floor, so he fell a few stories, and from that falling, the doctors pretty much told him he would be unable to be a dentist because it requires a lot of standing and his back, in terms of leaning over. So he had worked his way through. He'd worked his way through college by working at restaurants, and he was like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And he tried a couple of other things, and he said, you know what, restaurants. I'll try a restaurant. And at that time, there was hamburger restaurants at that time, but there were no hot dog, half-smoke restaurants. So he said, you know what, I'm going to open a hot dog half-smoke restaurant and add spice to it. He was like, I'll bring spice to America. And he actually met my mother-in-law at the other iconic business, black business, on U Street, Industrial Bank.
Absolutely.
And they met, fell in love, as it's told, and they wanted to start a family and so forth. So there was the birth of Ben's Chili Bowl. And it was kind of interesting because, as you know, U Street was known as Black Broadway. So when they were looking for a location, they were like, wouldn't it be great if they find a location on Black Broadway to open up Ben's? And they went walking around, and this gentleman was outside of which was 1213 U Street, and they were just like saying we're looking for a space to open a restaurant, and he actually had it as a pool hall. It was the first black detective that had was turned a mini haha. It was first a silent movie theater, then it became a pool hall, and he was like, "Well, it's your lucky day." So he rented it at first, like what you were saying, it was a privilege to own property back then. At that time, he rented it to them, and they opened up Ben Still Bowl. It instantly became a hit because there were 3 movie theaters within 2 blocks, right? So you had the historic Lincoln Theater right next door, and you had Howard and the Republic. So it instantly became a hit. It was late night. It opened till like 4 in the morning. So you had everyone coming from 6 a.m. to 4 a.m. and it became a gathering place, which was pretty amazing, where all walks of life felt welcome to come in and meet each other, have different conversations, and so forth. We always said you at the counter, you can meet a homeless person sitting next to a judge. It was like everyone just kind of felt welcomed, and so it kept building. And with the success, you had activists. Stokely Carmichael had his office right across the street. You had Dr. King, who had his satellite office at 14th and U. So a lot of the meetings, like my mother-in-laws always say that it was ordinary life back then. Like now we can't imagine, her sitting with Dr. King, having a conversation about the whole March on Washington, the High of a Dream speech, and meeting with President Kennedy, and them having a conversation about the march. I think it was pretty amazing journey and a legacy that she has built. And as we come forward through 20 years of downward turn as your family, we all know that story of right, and where it was only 3 businesses, and then in 88. In 1988, the city decided to do a subway station for us, right, which took 5 years, 60 feet hole underground, and we survived that. Like
I remember those days,
right? Mom had 1 employee, and everyone else had to find jobs and everything else. And 1992, the subway was open. Businesses started coming back into the area, and here comes a new DC. We had the pleasure of welcoming our first African American president. As president-elect, he came to the Chili Bowl as his first public outing. So, I always say, as we're the second generation continuing the legacy, if we do half as good as what they did, we would have accomplished a lot. It's an amazing, amazing legacy, and I'm proud to be part of the second generation continuing it.
You guys are, it's such a wonderful place to be. And I remember the day when the president-elect came, and I was trying to get there, but all the streets were blocked, and I was like, I want to get there. But that had to be the most amazing thing in the world, to have Barack Obama come there. And I think he came there last week, didn't he?
Not last week, but he came back, which was kind of special, when he was promoting his book, The Promised Land.
Right.
It was so special. He chose Ben's to do another stop. So we definitely have been blessed throughout the years. But, it's amazing, Stacie, because as this conversation was coming about, I was thinking it's so cool. We pass each other so much at events and community, because that's what we know we're all about. And it's so cool now to sit and with you and just kind of go, wow, this is the story. This is a legacy, and we are holding the baton to continue it. So I know our journey will be amazing for years to come. But I have a question for you.
Sure.
If you were not running this amazing family business, what would you be doing?
So I thought about that question a lot when you posed it, and I just can't think of anything that I'd rather be doing besides running this flower shop. I just love coming to this flower shop every day because every day is different. You never know what's going to happen on any given day. But I just love the legacy that William and Winifred left us, and I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. How about you? What would you be doing if I know you ran a PR firm before you came back to?
Well, it's so funny because I met Sage at a prayer meeting, actually.
Oh,
Will be now 39 years ago. And I know, isn't that crazy?
yeah.
And I had known about Ben's Chili Bowl because of my mother and Pop are from Trinidad. So they went to the same mosque and so forth. And so the families knew each other, but I never went to the Chili Bowl, which was interesting. I ate food from the Chili Bowl, but I never stepped in. And for me, I always knew I wanted to do something to help others. I knew that I wanted that to be my life's journey. And so I always thought I would be a doctor. That was my thing, right? So I was studying I was out of high school and I was getting ready to go to college. And that's when I met Sage, the
Okay.
year I graduated from high school. And he asked me to marry him on his third date. So I know, that's what I said at 18, asked me to marry him. So that journey took a little twist. My life took a little twist than what I expected to be. And he wanted to be a musician. And we ended up going out to LA for him to pursue that dream. And instead of me becoming a doctor, I ended up being a publicist, working, that's a whole nother story, but working at Virgin Records, Capitol Records, and then opening my own, and Vida Media Group. And then my father-in-law, passed. And, we just said we had to come back and help. And to be honest, it's kind of like what you're saying. Even though we had our own journey and it was beautiful and we were building a life and a legacy of our own, there was nothing like Ben's Chili Bowl to say it was a decision, what should we do? We felt like we had to come back and to help the brothers, their two other sons, to help continue this legacy. So now I can't imagine doing anything else. It's really wild. It's become as you know, it's become bigger than the flowers and the cards and the half smokes. It's way bigger. I mean, now here's a family who started off just trying to feed their family and put a half smoke on a bun, which was a breakfast sausage, and now it's DC's signature dish. How does that's crazy in just a regular life. It becomes history after 60 something years. And for yours, it's what, 75 years? 77, that's right, 77. We're now 22.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. So how would you say your family got the courage, and where do you think they got the tenacity? To continue?
Well, my grandfather was very industrious. He left home at 14.
Wow.
He was from Malden, Massachusetts, and he became a Pullman porter on the railroad. And he met my grandmother. They were both very, very smart people. They may not have gone to college, but they were very smart to be able to establish this business and then have the forethought to purchase a building. And I think that's the legacy that they left. The greatest legacy was them purchasing the building, establishing the shop, but purchasing the building so that we could continue to run the business without the threat of rents going up and all of that kind of thing that can happen to make a business not still be around. How about you and your in-laws? How did they start or have the tenacity?
When my mother-in-law tells her story, she came from, I think it was a 300 or 600 acre farm. It was an incredible beginning for her, and she was saying how a lot they woke up to chores. They woke up to that work ethic of, we move as a family. You carry, you do your part, and but it was lovingly. It wasn't like a chore per se.
Right.
And so she always had that work ethic. Even today, she's 88 years old. And as you know, she's at the Chili Bowl. She's actually heading there right now. She's there every day. She's up at 6:30. I mean, she still. I watch it today. So it's an amazing. And my father-in-law from Trinidad, when he came here, I think he just wanted to make his family proud. Coming from Trinidad, his family was well-to-do in Trinidad, but he wanted to to make that family proud. And if every parent from probably everywhere, but from Trinidad, definitely, if you became a doctor or engineer, you have succeeded in life, right? Or a lawyer. It's like, it's right? Exactly. So his quest was he was the eldest son and to become that doctor. And I think he didn't want to stop. And I think he was driven by that drive to make his parents proud. And I think it's the same with my mother-in-law. There was something about just making sure they live right and do all the right things to make their parents proud. I think that meant a lot to them, and I watch it continued, and they passed it along to their three sons. That as you know, Zam went off to college to become a dentist. Kamal went off to Wharton Business School, and Sage went to Brown, and he was studying to be a doctor as well. And they all came back to carry on the legacy. And it's just, when you really think about it, it becomes, as you know, it's everyday life. Right? We get up 12 hours a day. We were laughing about that. Like, when does your day end? When does it begin? And there is no beginning or no end. It's what you do outside of this is what's different. But you wake up thinking and go to bed thinking. So, I think it's, I like I said, once again, now that we have the third generation, I only hope we pass on that legacy of hard work and being kind and taking pride and having dignity with your work. I think that's all I can pray for, is we can continue it throughout our generation and pass it on, because I think the first one did its job. I think,
Absolutely. And you guys are keeping it going, and that's amazing. I'm so proud of the work you all are doing, and it's just a great feeling when I come to U Street. I just it doesn't feel the same as it was back in those days, because there are lots of new neighbors, and I haven't gotten to know them like I know you guys and Doyle and Patricia from Industrial Bank. And, it doesn't feel the same, but, we still, have that connection.
And it's so funny how we may not see each other all the time. We may not talk, but it's like when you meet, it's like family. It's right back. And, you made a very interesting point. I remember so-called during the downward turn, when the drug addicts and so forth were on the streets, and and it was so-called not safe to walk. I remember having to take the money to the bank, because we did it as a family. We didn't think of anything else as what we do, and no one can touch us. Those same people who they thought you could be scared of were family to us. We knew every drug dealer. We knew every. I mean, it was really amazing to really
Mm-hmm.
understand. We were truly a family, like you were saying. It was never a community where you were scared to be or to walk out. Those are the ones who protected.
Yeah.
I remember Mom speaking of the riots of 1968, because as you
Mm-hmm.
know, unfortunately, on on April 4th, 1968, we lost Dr. King.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Mom saying that, when the news first came, they only had a radio at the time. They didn't have the TV and so
Right.
forth. And
Right.
some guests, which was like family at that time, ran in saying Dr. King was shot. At that time, he wasn't pronounced dead. And we're
Right.
like, no way. There's no way. She was like, there's
Yeah.
no way. That's impossible. He's in his
Mm-hmm.
30s and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. And he had just left DC not too long ago and all that.
Right.
And next thing you know, it was true. And then he had
Mm-hmm.
passed.
Right.
So, then came it was just anger. It was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
enough. I think they were just
Right.
feeling like it's enough. It was, we can't take it. What else? What else are we going
Mm-hmm.
to experience? And unfortunately, they started burning Black Broadway, and everything
Yeah.
went up in flames, except we
Mm-hmm.
were blessed. And that's why it goes back to what we were just saying. We were truly protected. For three Black businesses to
Mm-hmm.
have not been touched, we were truly blessed. I remember, hearing that there were armed guests on the roof saying, "You're not going to touch this
Mm-hmm.
building," you know, and
Right.
and I feel like that's what it took. That's the community that up to today we're so proud to be a part of and to continue to serve. What did you hear from your grandparents and parents about that time?
Well, my dad tells the story that, my grandfather was in the hospital during that time, and so he was working at the Peace Corps,
Wow.
and he was working on Connecticut Avenue. And when he heard about it, immediately he said he had to walk to the flower shop from there because he couldn't get any transportation or the streets were blocked. And he came, and my grandmother, and he spent the night
Wow.
in the shop with. He always says a shotgun. I don't know what his name. I was 5 at the time, but he says that they spent the night, several nights here, making sure, and they wrote "Soul Brother" on the window,
Right.
and they weren't touched, and so that was a blessing. But that was a tumultuous time, and it just reminded me of 2020 when the same similar things were happening, and we did the same thing. Black owned
Wow.
business on the windows, and we weren't touched, fortunately.
Yeah, I remember my mother-in-law speaking of those 3 days of riots. And they asked Ben's Chili Bowl, I think it was the only business to stay open during that
Mm-hmm.
time to
Mm-hmm.
serve the activists and the first responders and so forth. And she was saying when the National Guard had to be called in. She remembered a tank. She never thought she would see or imagine a tank coming down 13th Street and 14. And she said one day there was I think she said it was like a blast or something she heard. So she went to the front door and opened the front door. And she said that's the first time she's ever felt tear gas in her eyes, because that's the environment. They just wanted it cleared and by any means necessary for this.
Mm-hmm.
They were thinking that for the safety of not only the businesses but the people. But she definitely speak of that time and how sad it was, because then no other businesses reopened. I mean, if you think about it, here there are businesses that have been there for many, many years, and they had put all their money, all their dreams into this,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's gone overnight, and a lot of them never came back. What made your family say, you know what? we're going to last this. We're going to, even throughout this, we're going to reopen it. Because from what I'm hearing, it was a lot of doubt because it drained you of your dreams and your hopes and where are we going as a humanity? What made your family say, no, these doors will reopen?
That's a great question, Vida. I've never really asked my grandparents that as before they passed, but I'll say that just based on my dad and our family, just strong people. We actually have West Indian roots as well. My grandmother's grandparents were Trinidad, no, I'm sorry, Barbados and
I
St. Croix.
love Barbados.
And St. Croix. So I just think it's just the tenacity that you mentioned before that they had for their business and their love of this business. I used to tease my grandmother, your whole life is wrapped in that flower shop. And that was when I was younger and I didn't understand. And now anybody could say the same thing about me, And so I think it's just the love of the business or running the business and just having something that you can say that's your own from the ground up. They have done that. And that sparked that desire in me to start something of my own. But of course, this is already here, so we're opening up another branch or shop at Union Station soon.
Yay!
So I feel like this is my baby, and because it's just I know you all have 5 locations, so I mean I know that's a great feeling, and we would probably fight for that as well.
Yeah, when my father-in-law passed and we came back here to join, we all sat together as a family. Now it's 5 of us. It's the 3 sons, and then Sonia, Kamal's wife, is also part of the business. And we all sat together and said, okay, let's, what's next, right? Here it was, we celebrated our 50th, and what can we do to add? And that's how we began saying, okay, maybe it's time to expand. And and we were blessed to our first opening was Nats Park. That's where we first, and then it continued to grow from there. But it's definitely a city, I would have to say, that has shown us a lot of love throughout the years. As we speak of, through the difficult times and even through recent COVID, without the support of the community, we would not have our doors open. I remember for COVID, all of our businesses had to close, but we, as history, in our history, we have never closed U Street. So Mom goes, we're not going to close U Street. We had to only have 1 shift because we have a lot of team members who have been with us like 30, 40 years. So they were a little older, and since the uncertainty of COVID, we didn't want them to be around. So we're like, okay, you guys take off. And then we had a lot of young team members that had either they were living with elderly or they had young kids. So we kind of said, for the safety, you guys stay home with your family. So we kind of kicked into 1 shift. And it was so scary because, as you know, in planning a day, you could kind of tell when it's going to be busy or the days is going to be busy. They were no longer busy.
No, I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
Everything kind of just went shut down. I mean, it was like a ghost town, and it was every business. It wasn't. It was really, really scary. And I remember a lot of restaurants contacting us saying, "What are you guys going to do?" Because it was almost like they see us as the hope. If Ben's could make it, we could make it too. And they were like contacting us, and and so were you guys getting that same type of experience where it's the community just poured in and said, "No, You will not.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, we experienced a similar thing. And my sister and I are third generation, and we became business partners when my father sold us the flower shop. During the first parts, March 16th, we remember they say all essential businesses, non-essential, have to shut down. Well, we were trying to figure out, well, what is that? What is non-essential? We feel like we're essential.
Flowers are very.
So we said we're gonna stay open because we consider ourselves essential. We actually even asked someone, DC government. We sent them a text. Hey, we're not sure if we're considered essential or not. So they didn't answer. So we said, well, we must be essential. And so we didn't. We locked the doors. We didn't let customers in. But fortunately, we have a great phone-in business, and our online business just skyrocketed.
Wow.
So I mean, the first couple months was we would have about 13 deliveries, and Christy and I, we had to do the layoff thing where we had to lay off about 80% of our staff. And so it was Christy and I and two drivers, and we would alternate days, and we would make up, we would make the delivery, make up the arrangements, and the driver would come and deliver. So that was the first 2 months. Then Mother's Day came around, and we gradually opened back up and brought all the staff back and had to add more staff because our business tripled during,
So how did you kind of get signs it was picking up, like, because flowers, when we speak of, we said everything is perishable, everything has a short lifespan. How did you know, okay, we need to restock flowers?
Well, at first, all of our wholesalers kind of shut down, and I had to drive to New Jersey to get a big truckload of flowers.
Wow.
Because that was the only place that was open. So it was even hard to get flowers back then, and it's even hard now with supply chain issues to get vases. So and certain things we need for sympathy arrangements. So it's still kind of continuing to this day, but it was just the support of the community, like you mentioned, and especially after the social justice, George Floyd murders and the Black Lives Matter. That was when we really garnered a lot of support from the community. People would call and just say,
wow.
I don't have to send flowers, but I'm going to send some to someone just so I can support.
Oh, wow, that's special.
And we even had a person that sent us $50 in the mail and said, this is to support a Black-owned business. They had seen something on the news about us. So the community has really stood beside us and
right.
kept up the support, and we just feel blessed that the community has really supported us, just like you guys, just blessed.
And it's so funny when you mention George Floyd. I mean, no one could imagine they would have witnessed that, right? That's unthinkable,
right.
We thought. And I remember when we had the march here, the family actually came to the Chili Bowl.
Oh.
Yeah, and that was so special because they were like, they wanted to come and pay respects for what they heard of
wow.
the Chili Bowl and what represented. And I thought that was so special.
Absolutely.
That they did that, because it tells that we're not just known for the food. People really understand the significance of a Ben's or a Lee's to a community and to a culture and to a city and beyond. We're carrying the culture. I mean, think about it. For Black business to survive 77, years, 63
Yes.
years.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean, to us, it's like we say, we're just living. But when you really stop to think about it, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
So I think we're like, there's something that I heard, we're like the longest black-owned restaurant in DC or beyond. I was someone mentioned that, and that was pretty amazing. But like what you said, we got so many, whether it was $25, $50, because they had visited or lived in DC, and that was a childhood memory or place they often came to, and now they moved away. But when they heard just the struggles, those checks, and what was cool is we started gathering those checks and preparing meals to donate to like Howard University and those who were in the front line, taking care of those who got sick. I mean, I couldn't imagine being
I,
part of the, you don't know the safety, right?
I,
Of what they're facing every day, but they're getting up tired, hungry, and not looking out for their own safety or family and serving us. And that was our little way of giving back to them. And so it was kind of a cool. It was cool to feel the heart warm. The heart got bigger when you gave and you saw the love reciprocated and just a community coming together, even with COVID and all of the sadness and illnesses and death that it brought. There was like a warmth among us that, what do you need, Stacie? What do you need, Vida? What do you need here? Like, we will get through this together. And I will never forget that. People were coming in for a meal, drove 4 hours because they wanted to make sure and see us. And we did the elbow bump because we couldn't hug. It was amazing. But you were about to say,
No, I was saying that I'm involved with Industry Village, and you all donated meals for our frontline workers. So I'm a witness to you all. Your generosity, just amazing.
And I just thought of something. I remember, for when they did the march recently for the January 6th incident, the demonstrators stopped at the Chili Bowl to pay the respect. I mean, we were like, these are things you're unheard of, and that's what makes me realize how important this legacy is. And I know we speak of that all the time, that this is important to people. They're watching us. It's like we always have eyes on. We can't. One time Kamal always talk about. He's like, okay, wherever we are, there are eyes. It's like it's like people watch because you're carrying a torch and a very important legacy that's important to a culture. So so Stacie, we laugh about it, but tell us, what's your typical day? What does that look like?
I always say my typical day it's never a typical day. I said it earlier. I never know what I'm going to come into, what is going to appear to us. We've done the services for dignitaries like Wayne Curry, Marion Barry. And I always feel such a connection to the people that we do the flowers for. I mean, we've done the Congressional Black Caucus, just different organizations, and it just really warms my heart that they would, support us here at the flower shop. How about you, Vida? What's your typical day?
Well, I have to say, Lee's has always been special to us because any occasion that we need flowers or cards or balloons, I've called you many last minutes, especially Stacie, can you do this in 1 hour? How many do you need? And what's really special is you've never said no, and I know how busy you are. So just so you know, I so appreciate it. But you did some beautiful arrangements for my father-in-law's service at the Lincoln. You did the flowers for Sonia's wedding. I mean, anytime flowers, there is no way. The only place we know of is your shop. And and you do some very, very beautiful and creative. You can feel the love in your arrangements, we always say. So you guys are doing a great job. I know it's hard work. Yeah, my typical day, it's like you, it changes, right? Because when you're part of the family that's overseeing it, you kind of have your responsibility, like your main responsibility that you know that no one else is doing this but you. But then you called on whatever is needed that day. So literally, I could have worked 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and 7 o'clock the phone is ringing, can you do this, or this is happening, we need your support, and so forth. So I literally I plan my day, but there's a lot of flexibility because you don't know what's going to happen that day, and it's all beautiful things. That's what we love. I love it. I love, like, there's no 2 days alike. Sometimes I start my day at 8 and I don't even have a drink of water, which is not good. I'm not promoting this, till 5 p.m. because I've been running, for that time. But I wouldn't change a thing, as I watch it, as I'm there.
What does Emancipation Day mean to you? I know it's coming up in April, here in April. April 15th.
That's an interesting day for me because I can't imagine what our ancestors had to go through. I try to, so often as that day approaches and other days, that we kind of acknowledge what that could possibly mean. And I can't. I've tried. To, in every way, going, if you were in that position, would you be a Harriet Tubman? Would you be? Because I feel like I wouldn't be able to sit still, but we don't know. We think, we know no one wanted to sit still. We know that. But that particular day, I believe, 3,000 slaves were freed, and it was the beginning. All I can say is I'm thankful for it. I wish we never had to have that day, but I'm thankful for it, and I cannot begin to say I'm thankful for those who had to experience that and endure that and give me the opportunities that I have today. Because without that, I don't know, we would have had the Ben's Chili Bowl or and for the life that we have today. How about you?
I feel the same exact way, Rita, and it just came into my purview of the last several years. I think when DC kind of started celebrating it and having the parade, and it really brings to mind what our forefathers went through and how far we've come from those days of enslavement. Just glad to celebrate it, glad to be a part of this DC community. And hopefully we'll get statehood, because we haven't been fully emancipated until we get statehood.
I know, and I think the mayor is doing a great job in saying, before I leave, I want this for our community, and and we're all part of that, right? And we do our part every day for that fight. Looking forward to that day where we do have statehood.
Yes.
I guess that's the fight we've taken on in our generation. So I hope that's a success for us.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you, first of all, Stacie, giving you a big hug from one family to the next for helping us keep U Street legacy going, keeping Black business, the Black culture proud, for everyone that walks in and say thank you. I want to say thank you to you and your family, because 77 years gave us, may have been our family seeing that to give us the encouragement to continue. So thank you to your family. And I want to thank the mayor and her team for allowing us to participate in this masterclass, and for just wanting us to share our story. So I thank you all.
Sure. I want to thank Mayor Bowser for this opportunity, and 202 Creates such a great program to promote the city. So thank you for inviting us to speak.